In the last video, we shortened the torque tube and drive shaft for the Model T. This one here, I'm going to show you the last steps. I've already installed the drive shaft bushing that goes in here. Once you drive it in, I just drove it in with a socket and a hammer till it bottomed out. Then you have to drill the side of the bushing here so your grease fitting can push grease into that bushing so you don't wear it out. And that's nothing special. There's a hole in there from the original. That's how I figured out the size that I wanted. This way you can put the grease fitting on there. When you screw it in, it pushes grease into that bushing. The next thing we're going to do is put our drive shaft in. And when we install our drive shaft, we've got to push it all the way forward. And the end of our universal, with our bearing at the back half, the end of this universal has to ride on that drive shaft bushing. That's what keeps your end play from moving in and out. So we may have to grind the face of that bushing. They have a reamer for that, so that this pin, or this hole and this hole line up and you can drive a pin through there. All I'm going to do is on the far end here, I'm going to just clamp these together with a set of vice grips. We'll give everything a tap forward. And your pin hole should line right up in the center of this hole, because eventually you're going to drop the pin down through there and have to pin it in place. Sometimes it'll take a couple tries, sometimes it won't. Well, it appears that mine, I'm not going to have to ream it. You can look down through the hole here. It lines right up perfectly. And I'm tapped in as far as I can go. So now let's just put a pin in there and drive it in place, which I'll do that once I actually put it in the rear axle. Now we're gonna put a little RTV on our gasket surface just to help us prevent leaks if we can. And then we're gonna install the drive shaft. I'm not gonna put a ton of it on here. Just a nice thin coat. We'll do the same to this gasket. That goes in between the upper and lower housing, I guess we'll call that. And I will also grease the bearings, the thrust bearing and the roller bearing that go in the rear end. And then we'll install it. We're going to try this again. Hopefully this time we don't drop it on the ground and knock everything over. So let's see how it happens. Okay, as you can see, we've got the bearing here bolted together. Our drive shaft is, the universal's in place. You still have to drive the pin. But I did one screw up is I've got the wheels installed, and I should have put the radius rods on before I installed the wheels. Because to get to these bolts right here, you need to get in behind the brakes. So I'm going to have to do that, and then we're going to install it in the car. Alright, I'm going to put this pin into the drive shaft universal, and that's what's going to hold the drive shaft universal to the drive shaft itself. I'm going to just put a little bit of red Loctite on it, just for my own peace of mind. You are supposed to pin them in place, and they have a little knurling on the end. But I figure just a little added Loctite is not going to hurt my feelings any. Then we're just going to get a center punch and kind of stake the ends of it on both sides. And that should be that. There's a cap that goes on each end of this, and a oiler that goes here. And then I'll put the radius rods on. I probably won't do a video about that. And I'll install it in the car.